It's hard to believe I've been at the General Conference 35 years now, and I've been editing the Sabbath School Quarterly 20. And I inherited, the Bible study guide goes back, I think, the 1850s, 1860s, and, it's evolved over the decades. And by the time I became editor in 1999, they had a long process in place. And I came in and early on I wanted to make some changes, and it was like, no way, this has been being done this way. And so I learned just to go with the flow, and I've inherited this process. But what happens is, after each General Conference session, after the session, they have an advisory. The session ends, of course, in July, and then usually around January or so of the next year, they have world advisories from all the departments, and they bring the Sabbath school leaders in from the different departments, and they just plan for the quinquennium. The next quinquennium. Well, my situation, the Bible study guide, is a little different. When they brought them in 2015, they brought them in early 2016 to plan for the quinquennium. Basically, they brought them in to plan for the scope and sequence, the Bible study guides that they want, the topics that they want. But it didn't start. The topics that in 2016, the topics that we started with started in 2020 and went from 2020 to 2025. In other words, we work that many years in advance because they need basically it's 5 years from the time they make a topic till the time we assign it to the time it goes out. So we were already in 2010, we were making the topics for 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20. So when they come along in 2015, I know the little confusion, they're making, the bottom line is when they come for the advisory, they start picking topics starting 5 years after the advisory for the next 5 years. So when the advisory that came, they were making the topics for 2021, 22, up until 2025. So anyway, everybody comes, we get together for a few days, they pick the topics, and then we vote on the topics. But it's just an advisory. It's got no governmental, I forgot what the word is they use at the GC. But it's just we present it, and then I have to take those names to AdCom. AdCom is, what do they call it? Governmental, or I forgot the word is, but they vote it, and then it's done in the church, okay? And AdCom has to approve it. So assuming AdCom approves it, and generally we've never had a problem with AdCom, they approve it. And then we have the topics. We have the topics for the next number for those years. And then, as I said, I make an assignment generally I make it 5 years in advance. I pick the topic, or I'd say I don't pick the topic, we have the topic, and then it's my job to try to find an author that fits the topic. Just to try to find someone who will fit whatever the topic is. It's basically up to me to try to find that, and I get advice from others as well, and it's very handy, when the Sabbath School Publication Board gives me names and so forth, and generally we don't have a problem finding authors. People are usually pretty excited to be able to write for the Sabbath School Quarterly. And so then what happens is we give them a topic. We give them 2 years to write the Bible study guide. In the past, if you give them longer, they keep putting it off and they don't do it. And it hasn't been a problem for me now, but I had 1 year, years ago, where all 4 authors, for various reasons, pooped out on me and didn't do it for me. And it was quite stressful having to find other things and so on. But generally, they do it, and generally they get them in on time, because if they're really late, I can't use them. I have a process. It's amazing how many different steps are involved in it, different stages we have, and we just don't have the standard edition. We have the teacher's edition. We have the easy reading edition. We have the abridged edition, and they're all in different stages that come through our office. And if somebody messes us up time-wise, everything gets messed up. And I'm a stickler for deadlines. You know, I can't have people from the world feel. They know in my office. They know in the office I'm a pretty laid-back guy, you know, do whatever, but I'm just kind of fanatical about deadlines, because I just can't have the world field coming in and complaining, hey, where is this manuscript? And then we have to deal with Pacific Press, because we deal with Pacific Press, and sometimes they get behind, and I just... So if manuscripts are late, I don't know, sometimes I just have to skip them and do something else, because we can't have them mess up the process. But anyway, ideally they get their manuscript in, and then we send it. We have to get it formatted in our office. We get it formatted, and then we send it out to a world committee. There's a world committee of people who are there to read the manuscript for us and give us feedback. And I don't remember how long we give them. We give them 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something to read and give us their feedback on the manuscript. Now, I remember when I was first interviewed for the job back in '99, I asked, one of the first questions I asked is, you cannot edit by committee. I will not edit by a committee. So I asked the question right off the bat, is the committee, do I have to do what the committee says? And if he would have said yes, I would have said, go find some other schnook to do it, because you can't do it that way. I said, is it advisory? And he said, it's advisory. And that's wonderful. That's the way it should be. You know, I can't, because you on the committee, one person will tell you one thing, somebody else will say, no, that's fine, but they don't like something else that somebody else does like, and so on. So, you know, who do you listen to? So in the end, I listen to everybody. I like the feedback. I tell people, just mark it. Just mark whatever your concern is, and then I look at it. And then it's my job as the editor to decide, hey, you know, this person's got a point here. I hadn't thought about that. But now I think this person's missing the boat. It's not important, and so on. And so, but it's very good, because the committee points out things sometimes that I might not see. Okay, so I'm very happy to have the committee, and I want all the feedback that I can get from it. But in the end, the bottom line, for better, for worse, the buck stops with me. And if I make a mistake and I do it wrong, well, I often joke with the brethren, you guys make a mistake, you get a committee, you cover it up, whatever. You know, I make a mistake, it's in 120 some languages. You know, so I don't take it lightly, but in the end, it's my name on there as editor. I have to make the final decision as to what I want on there. And if it's wrong, well, then I'll take the heat for it. But anyway, we send it to the committee. They make their marks. We get a group. We get together. The first committee, we have an in-house committee. And we sit and we look over the manuscript. We talk together. Ultimately, they vote to approve, if they're going to approve it. And they've always accepted every manuscript since I've been there. And they decide to accept it. And then I have about a 3-month period. And I take 3 months and I edit the manuscript. I just do it. I edit it. I look at the input I get, and then I edit the manuscript, and then we send it back out to a smaller committee. And they look over. Basically, the first committee is to look over what the author does. And the second committee is to basically look over my shoulder. Okay? And generally, when I tell people, I say, look, if you don't have time to read both manuscripts, please read the second edit. Read it after I've edited it, because this is a thing that's going to go to the field. So if you find a mistake, if you find something that you're worried about, please read it at this committee. Help me, because sometimes I just don't see it. So they read over my shoulder then, and at the same time, I work on the assumption that the Biblical Research Institute, everybody here know what the Biblical Research Institute, they're like our in-house scholars. And I always work on the assumption that the Biblical Research Institute will read over the second edit. And every now and then things have slipped through the cracks, and I go down there and I gripe to them. I say, look, I'm counting on you guys. I'm counting on you to read the second edit. And for the most part they do, and they've been very helpful. They find things that slip through, but even then, I'm not going to get into it now, and then on top of it, also we have, and this is a help to me too, we have the translators in the field. We've got a couple of translators who are sharp cookies. And sometimes it's a pain in the neck, but I'm thankful for them, because they will find things that our committee's missed, I've missed, the Biblical Research Institute has missed. Ideally by then we'd like to think it's not some blatant heresy, okay? I'd like to think whatever mistakes have gone in the quarterly, we haven't had heresy in there, though from some of the attacks that I get, you'd think we are Satan's minions out to destroy the church, and so on. And usually I get it from the far left and the far right. Okay, but sometimes even the translators are able to catch things. Well, I said, every now and then things slip through. So anyway, I get the second edit. I edit it. It goes out to the committee. Then I get it back. I look at what the committee a second time says. I do my second edit on it. Usually it doesn't take that long, but I seek to incorporate whatever suggestions they make, those that I agree with. And then pretty much my work at that point is done on that manuscript. I give it to the people in my office. They format it. And then we send it out to the world divisions, or the various people who are involved. And then pretty much at that point, it's really no longer my direct responsibility, because it's up to the division then to make sure that it gets translated correctly. A long time ago when I first got the job, I had nightmares wondering about how the translations were going. And I finally just say, I had to stop, okay? That, I can't, how can I, the translations? I have nothing to do with that. And every now and then our office will get some complaints from the field about translations. And obviously we're concerned if there's something wrong with the translations. Now, we do give the divisions. We have written a policy years ago. When I first got in the job, there was a policy to allow the translators a certain amount of leeway. Just certain phrases might not work. They might want to use their own a local illustration. You know, I'm the editor. Whoever the author is, we're limited. I'm a North American. I have a limited view of the world, and the author, wherever the author comes from, and sometimes certain things just wouldn't play well in a certain culture. So if they follow the principle, if they follow the spirit of what we've given them, they'll be fine with the translation. We've had some places where we're not so sure they do that. And there was one division one time, or in one division, one fella in one country, very small Adventist population there, he just took it upon himself. He didn't like the topic, so he took it upon himself to write his own quarterly. You know, and the people in the field were like, everybody else is studying one thing, and what are we doing here? Well, you know, we found out about it. We were very concerned, but again, it's technically not the GC's jurisdiction. It's technically not. We got in touch with the division, and we said, what in the world is going on here? You know, and I don't even know if the division leaders knew. But, you know, it never happened again in that field. So, you know, it was pretty bad, though. The guy just took it upon himself to write his own quarterly, you know, and so forth. So, you know, in many ways, the genius of the Bible study guide is the weakness. The genius, as Ramon said, ideally the whole world. I don't know if there's a publication like it in the world. All over the world. It amazes me to travel to places. And it's very humbling to go sit in a church somewhere and see the people studying the stuff that we worked on in the office. It's a very humbling experience. And I take it, oh Lord, you know, who is worthy of these things? And I really mean that. I mean, to go in and have my job with an arrogant attitude and so on, you've got to be a fool. I was very humbled when I first got in the job. You know, it was funny because from the time I'm done editing it, it's 2 years until it reaches the people. So I got the job in '99. And for 2 years, it was sweet. Because if people called in and complained and had anything they wanted to gripe about, I said, well, I'm sorry. I had nothing to do with it. It was before my time. And so I had a wonderful hiatus there. And then all of a sudden it came to this day when the first one came out. And then it all fell on me, and rightly so. In the end, I'm the editor. I take the responsibility for what I'm responsible for. I can't deal with what the translators do. But again, I'm concerned. But anyway, we get it. I do the second edit. We format it. Then we send it to the divisions. And it's the division's responsibility to get it translated, to get it printed, and to get it distributed. And it's utterly amazing how it seems as if it always works. You know, we have our glitches, we have our problems, and I have no idea what goes on at some of the division levels, but all over the world, Adventists are studying the Bible study guide. And from the time we make the assignment to the time it first gets in the field is about 5 years. Now, a lot of people asked us, how did we time the Unity Quarterly to start right at Battle Creek and the whole challenge our church is facing? We really need to pray for our church because it's a pretty scary time. I'll put it bluntly. It's a very scary time. I've been in the church now almost 40 years as GC 35, and I've never seen anything like this. And people wondered the timing of this. In fact, the guy who wrote the quarterly, Denny Fortrin, he said people were saying to him, how did you time this? Well, here's the story on this, which gives me encouragement. The Lord's hand is in his church. That topic was assigned in 2010. That was the advisory, or 2011. They wanted unity in Christ. About 2012, I gave the assignment to Denny Fortrin, and it would have been 5 years later, and it was supposed to come out in 2017. Everything is on track. At about 2015, I'm sitting in some committee, and they're talking about the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation, 2017. Well, they think they want something on the Sabbath School Quarterly on the Protestant Reformation. Well, sorry, Charlie. You can't come to me in 2015 and want a topic for 2017. I just can't do it, okay? The way it works. So I was just curious. I'm sitting in this meeting, and I'm just curious. Well, what is the topic that comes out third quarter 2017? When the whole Protestant and the Catholic world, the Reformation. And what is the topic? Unity in Christ. And I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, I can't do that. I can't. Do you know, when the whole Protestant world, in a fulfillment of prophecy, I might add, is going to be falling over itself, slobbering, claiming unity with Rome, claiming, you've seen how these Protestants are. Now it's a joke. There was no real need for the break, on this total revision, a total whitewash of the whole thing, a total kowtowing to Rome, and an amazing fulfillment of our understanding of prophecy. But I thought, I can't do that. I can't have this quarterly at this time. I'll get crucified on this. It's such a bad message to send, even though it wasn't even in my mind. So I got together with my VP, and in 2015, we switched things around. And I said, let's just stick it in third quarter the next year, 2018. So in 2015, we switched it, and it came out third quarter 2018, long before any of the stuff that we had any idea would happen in the church with the question of unity and so on. So I felt it was very providential whether people were listening or not. And I know in some Sabbath school classes, including one in my church, they used it to push their own agenda. And it got a lot. I was sort of glad when it got over, because I got tired of listening to the same claptrap, to be quite honest with you. They were taking it, and but anyway, that's a whole other, I don't know, second thought. I probably shouldn't have said that. But anyway, all right, look, do you have any? That's the gist of it. That's the gist of the process that we use for the adult Bible study guide. As I said, it's amazing. It's amazing how, as I said, I stepped into this, I inherited this massive system that just, and it's a privilege to be a cog in the wheel of it going out. And I've been around long enough to know that if time should last, I'll be gone, there'll be somebody else in there, and I'll be as forgotten as all the editors were. before me, and that's just the way it is. And, you know, the things which are seen are temporal, the things which are not seen are eternal. And but anyway, any questions on this process? Any questions on anything about what we do, how we do the adult Bible study guide? Okay, go ahead. Yes, sir.
How are the translators chosen again?
The question was, how are the translators chosen? And see, I have no idea. That's not my responsibility. It's the individual divisions who deal with that. So, oh, please, I don't want anything to do with that. It's enough responsibility now, but ideally we assume that the divisions take this seriously and have good translators. And most of the time, I don't get complaints about the translations. Every now and then, something comes in, and it's hard for me to know how legitimate it is, or if it's going to be, some people are going to complain about everything no matter what. So it's really hard for me to know about that. But I'm assuming the divisions take their responsibility seriously.
Well, not a question really, but just to give a comment. And I just want to thank the Lord for using His people, like you and the rest, to have this study come out to all the places in the world. I just want to say that it doesn't only go to the Seventh-day Adventist church members these days. I have a testimony of some of the Sunday-keeping churches who rush for this, and I'm using the word rush purposely. I mean, because I see this happening in some of our places where we send these lessons. They end up being collected by Sunday-keeping churches, and when our members reach there, they find it's almost all gone. And so I'm saying, may God continue blessing you for the good work you're doing. May God bless you so much.
Yeah, I've heard stories like that, and it's interesting too, because as editor, I'm very unabashedly, these are Seventh-day Adventist doctrines. This is a Seventh-day Adventist publication, and I don't make any attempt to downplay that, to hide that. I know there are some parts of the world where they want to downplay that, and I said, well, you better use something else, because, you know, this is unabashedly Seventh-day Adventist. But, you know, we try to do it in a biblical way. We try every day we have Bible text. Because sometimes I have people say to me, the Bible study guide is too complicated. I do get that. And what I say to them, I said, okay, look, just read the Bible texts that are in there for the day. Study the text. Ask the Lord, talk to you through the text. Is there something in the text for you? And if you do that, chances are, if the Bible speaks to you, then you might go back and read the day's lesson, and you might find it makes more sense. Others who say it's too simple, I said, well, look, it's just a guide. We're not saying you've got to follow this rigidly, you know, this is the topic for the day. This is the direction it's going in. If you want to go deeper, you want to take it further or take it, a different angle, it's there. Go ahead and do it. It's like there's almost this all or nothing attitude towards it. Well, it doesn't meet exactly what I want, so I'm going to throw it out. Well, I'm sure for most people it's not going to meet exactly what you want. So anyway, go ahead.
Algumas pessoas colocam na internet suas observações, comentários, e eles funcionam mais ou menos como se fossem uns professores dos professores das nossas igrejas.
Okay. Some people take the study guide further. They post online and they become teachers of the teachers.
Algumas dessas pessoas estão alinhadas com a igreja, outras têm uma agenda própria.
Some are aligned with the church, others have their own agendas.
Que consideração o senhor pode fazer sobre isso?
Which consideration can you give us in terms of this, just to help?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's something that we've wrestled with for a long time, almost from when the beginning of the internet. Sure. At the beginning of the internet, people were putting the Bible study guide up online. And my basic philosophy, and of course, this is not, it's my philosophy. I don't own the Bible study guide, okay? So I said, I'm just a cog in the wheel. My feeling is the more the merrier. People want to put it up online, great, wonderful. For a long time, we wondered with Pacific Press and copyright. I mean, we could legally stop people. And for a long time, with Gary Swanson, we used to talk about this on, and we realized that this is above our pay grade. It would have to be administration working with the legal department and Pacific Press, because they got skin in the game, because they make money off of this, and other people are doing it. Well, nothing ever really happened. I don't think anybody knew. Well, by that time, to start stopping people legally from doing it, it would be a big mistake. Okay, the cat's out of the bag. People are making apps for it. People are making apps, but we've got some rules. I know some people that were making apps for the Bible study guide, and they wanted my help. And I said, I'll help you to whatever degree I can, but if a division has a problem, then you have to work out with the division, and I'm not going to go against the division. Okay, if the division, for financial reasons or whatever, doesn't want people doing it, they can stop them. What we do say to people, first of all, if you have an app, you cannot ask for money for it or donations. Because we've got reports back of people doing apps and then asking for donations, and then them coming to us at the GC, why are you asking money for the app for the Bible study guide? Well, we're not. And when we found out people were doing it, to the degree that we could, we put the kibosh on them, said you can't do it. So what we do is if people want to put it up, we absolutely forbid. They cannot make any change to it. Mostly they get PDF files, so they can't change them. My understanding, as long as they don't change them. And we had one group that's been putting the Bible study guide up for a long time, and it's very suspect theology. I mean, the people who are commenting on it, it's all this left wing, it's all this Maxwellian, like I'm saying it, this moral, it's this Maxwellian nonsense. It's the nonsense we got for 40 years, the subjective atonement. I mean, it's pure, in my thinking, outright heresy. It's not Christianity, this theology. But they put it up, but the people who just comment, they lean that way. And we leave them alone. It's just people commenting, there's nothing we want to do about that, because all sorts of people are going to comment on any blog and so on. So we don't let them advertise. We don't want them advertising things on, or at least things that we are. But the bottom line is, for the most part, we don't have problems with it. And we're happy to have so many different people putting it up and using it. And as long as they don't break certain rules, at this point, we just leave them alone. Because to start sicking the legal department on all these groups, and we let some do it and not others. So, but if you're having a problem in your division, then it's the division itself that'll have to deal with it. Okay, he's got another. Okay. Sure.
Minha pergunta é mais nessa direção. Por exemplo, há pastores, mais especificamente, há pastores e pessoas que fazem comentários da escola sabatina na internet. Só que vamos dar um exemplo. Ele pega o assunto de unidade e, em vez de ele trabalhar a favor da unidade da igreja, ele trabalha contra a igreja organizada. Então é nesse sentido que eu digo, esse tipo de pessoa que vai na internet, faz um comentário tentando guiar o membro contra a igreja.
Okay. So basically what the pastor is saying, it's more about people that leave comments online. Sometimes even pastors do that. They leave comments online. Instead of being in favor of the church, they're against the church. So they're giving their own opinions. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think the division you're in will have to make a choice on how it wants to deal with that. I mean, the internet's the internet. And you're always going to have that. In fact, there's this one group, Former Adventist Fellowship. Their whole ministry is to get people out of the Adventist church. And they link to the Bible study guide. Every week they link to the Bible study guide and they give their comments and their own. And it's just, I think the perspective now, it's not worth the fight. You know, people have to, the material's out there, people are going to have to make the choice for themselves. So, okay. Thank you. Okay.